I saw that you wrote a piece in the Financial Times recently where you talked about the president's budget year 2021 and really not a great deal of difference between what the two parties propose. So this, what you might call systemic pressure of money in politics, moving the median voter needle to where the money is rather than where the population's needs are, is really quite profound.
The title of my book, The Price of Civilization, of course, is a reference to a famous phrase of a great jurist in the United States history, Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr., Supreme Court Justice, who said at one point, I like to pay taxes, that's the way I pay for civilization. Wonderful idea, absolutely true, but so far from our current reality right now, where the rich and the corporate sector doesn't want to pay taxes, and they weigh in on that basic point probably more powerfully and centrally than in any other. So the federal fiscal system is absolutely without the funding that's needed to provide the public goods necessary for a decent society.
You know, you'd mentioned that what they call non-defense discretionary spending in these budgets goes down to less than 2% of GDP, where I think its historic average was near 5%.
If you take all the things that government does for public investment outside of the military, education, infrastructure, job training, environment, science and technology, add in the judicial system, add in public administration, add in federal land management, add in environmental protection, the whole works. The president's own budget, and this is a progressive president in his eloquence and his speeches, that entire range is supposed to fit into 1.8% of national income in the year 2020. Of course, it's preposterous. It's almost dismantling government. But because the powerful have kept their taxes so low, this is the reflection of this. And then because we had the large budget deficits and the stimulus, which I regarded as short-term band-aids rather than the long-term strategic investments we need, our debt has soared. And so the interest payments on the debt will rise from something like 1.5% of national income around now to over 3% of national income by the end of the decade. And if interest rates are higher than expected, of course, commensurately, even higher debt servicing. And that's squeezing out these vital public goods and services as well. So we're ending up tearing apart the basic functionality of government. Even when we look around comparatively and we see, for example, it's Northern Europe, it's the Scandinavian social democracies or the social market economy of Germany that outperforms the U.S. in job creation, in keeping unemployment low, in keeping the budget deficits low, in keeping good public finance standing, and so forth. But we're not taking any of those lessons. What we're doing is letting politics, in this rather crude way, big money, determine the course. And I think we're getting farther and farther away from where we need to be.
Well, you mentioned comparative economics. And one of the things that I find very haunting is that we have a complex economy. And when a society allows bailouts and bonuses like the United States, the public ceases to trust. They start to view the government as the insurance agency for the rich and powerful. They see it like Ronald Reagan saw it, as the problem, not the solution. And like Germany and Austria in the early 30s, a financial crisis led to a tremendous breakdown in trust. I mean, the rise of the Tea Party and these other things. I mean, these are well-meaning people who are sinking and seeing the government exacerbating the problem.
Of course.
And their response, perhaps in a misguided way, can only be, what I would say, can only get back on track if they start to do comparative economics.
Well, this is absolutely the paradox that government malfunctions or is starved for money in the areas absolutely needed to improve job skills, for example. And then the conclusion is you see it doesn't work. And then you take it back further, end up really crushing the possibility of providing public goods. Or you go the other way, you privatize what should be in the public sector, healthcare is a good example where America has the most privately oriented of the healthcare systems, and it's 50 to 100% more expensive than anywhere else in the world.
I think we rank about 38th in quality according to the
Exactly,
World
and
Health
our life
Organization.
expectancy is several years behind. But when I watch sometimes, even some of my colleagues, look at what should be done on healthcare, they enumerate the ills. One of my colleagues actually made a comparative chart that says the U.S. is more expensive than others, and we have lower life expectancy. But what was his conclusion? We need to go even more to the market, because instead of looking at the comparison and then doing a comparative institutional analysis, ideology took over. And it was assumed in a kind of market fundamentalism, well, if something's wrong, even more market. But this particular colleague's own table, if he had looked at it, might have led him to ask, well, exactly what is Sweden doing, by the way, or what is Denmark doing? It's not what you're recommending in the follow-up. And one might, because we're supposed to have some rational faculties in this and supposed to be able to analyze, understand and focus attention on what is working, instead of a U.S. attitude, which is also it's a big country attitude in general, I've learned around the world, but it's very particular to the U.S. after decades of being on top of the heap. We don't have anything to learn from anywhere else. We just, we know. And that is a syndrome, I would say even in economics, that good, rigorous, comparative, institutional analysis is vital for success, so that you find out what is the fittest, what's working, and why. But the profession just allows ideology to dominate rather than that kind of rigorous work.